We're ready. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee of Biggleswade Town Council this 17th day of March 2026. Before the formal part of the agenda, the formalities of the meeting. This is a reminder to meeting attendees that this is a formal meeting. I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. May I please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking. Right, the first item on the agenda this evening is apologies for absence. I've got apologies from Councillor Allbone, Councillor North and Councillor Woodhead. Are there any other apologies, please? Item number 2 tonight is to receive declarations of interest. First of all, disclosable pecuniary interests in any agenda item. Are there any interests to declare? There are none. Are there any non-pecuniary interests in any agenda item to be declared? Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Item 9A, I'm a trustee of the Biggleswade History Society.
Thank you. Item number 3, very short. There are no chairman's announcements. Item number 4, public open session. No members of the public are physically present. Asia, are there any online who would wish to speak? There are none. All right. We have no invited speaker for the evening. So item number 6 now, members' questions. Are there any members' questions? There are none. Right, we're now moving on to the items on the minutes and recommendations of meetings. And the first minutes is to approve as a true and correct record the minutes of the meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on Tuesday, the 6th of January 2026. Page, are there any, is page 5 correct? Page 6? Yes, Councillor Agnew.
I hate to be pedantic. On the 9A, the paragraph starting members raised concern regarding Appendix B. In the second line, members queried, misspelling, but that's all. I'll show Aisha afterwards. Yeah, the second line. Members queries whether the figure had been specifically requested.
Right, so that's just a spelling
it's
correction.
Just English, yeah.
Item number, page 7. Is it your wish that these approve these as a true and correct record and that I sign the same?
Yes.
Seconded. Any further comment? That's all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now moving on to item 8, which is the matters arising from that meeting, again page by page. Page 5, page 6. Councillor Russell.
Just a note. We have to do a 3-year plan, finance plan.
Yes.
And I was just slightly surprised that as a town council, we only need to do a 3-year plan when upper tier authorities have to do a 5-year medium-term finance plan. And I wonder whether we should try, informally at least, to look a bit further forward. But I just throw that into the mix, and you know, Ernest might say no, but I understand the legal requirement. I'm just saying that I would be used to a more 5-year plan than 3.
Have you got any comments, Mr. Pearl, please?
I think officers we do more than 3 in a way in the background, but we don't really share it outside. But it can be done, and we look into it if that's what members prefer. We can look more to 5 years instead of the 3 years. But looking more than 3 becomes very, very unpredictable, I would say. It can be very difficult because you can get to year 2 and what you thought about in 4th year or 5th year becomes irrelevant.
Councillor Russell, would it be your wish that we ask the officers to look at it and report back to the next finance meeting?
We've got the budget planning on
Yes.
the agenda. And I'm just thinking that we've taken on some fairly long-term commitments, and we've got the properties that we're
Yes.
responsible for. And I just wonder whether we need to project that forward with a predicted inflation increase and start to see where we're going compared to the current year's budget. But I mean, that's probably for when we get into the budget for next year to think about that a bit more.
Just thinking, perhaps perhaps you could give some consideration to that, Mr. Ball, whether it comes to the next finance meeting or into the budget cycle. But certainly, I think it's a point well made, if other members are happy with that, that we ask officers just to look into it and possibly report to the next meeting of this committee prior to the budget cycle. So can I have a proposal for that? Is that seconded?
I'll second.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Anything else on matters arising on page 6? Anything on page 7? Right, we've covered that. Thank you very much. Right, the next item on the agenda is actually the main item of the evening. That is the tranche 2 grant cycle, and there's a report from Mr. Bohr here to there, which we can take it. I think that all members have read the report, and note that there's total requests of the 19,200, and unfortunately, and we've only got £6,482 left in the budget for this year. So we've got to look at what we've got, because we can't overspend. So you've all should have had a copy of details of the budget, the applications for grants, and you have also had a list. So I'm going to run through them in numerical order. As far as proposals are concerned, I think the first one will be just indicative, because we may have to play around with figures later on because of the limitations we've got on the budget. So I will take it as an indicative figure initially, and then we'll take the whole lot at the end when we have the actual total figure, if our members are agreeable to that course of action. Right, well, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, just a point to note that if I'm reading this correctly, there are 3 applicants that have actually had a grant already this year. So I presume they are excluded from a grant on this cycle. Would that be correct, or am I misinterpreting that?
I think Mr. Ball will correct me. I think they're entitled to make the application, and they may be awarded or they may not be awarded. I think that is for members to decide according to circumstances, but I'm sure that would be taken into account. Councillor Agnew.
I would like to propose the following. We do seem to have a lot of applicants this time around, but in amongst them we have 4 applicants that never applied before. And as a gesture of goodwill, I'd like to say that maybe perhaps we should consider them this time around, just to encourage other organizations to do the same. Also, on our normal matrix and the way how we ascertain who is applying for what and why and how much we give, we typically consider our policy, which says that we need to give preference to CAPEX as opposed to OPEX. And of course, we did have various precedents before, but if we were to stick with this rule this time around, because we have shortage in budget for this particular grant series, that actually leaves us with fewer applicants we could consider. And we would just like to remind others who would not have given anything this time around that please be encouraged to apply next time. In other words, my suggestion would be to give nothing this time for some of the applicants who do not meet our criteria, but also are still invited to apply for the next tranche. that's my initial preamble. I have actually numbers thought through, but just wanted colleagues' opinion on this. So effectively 2 points. One, to give people opportunity to come across new applicants, and also we have 3 strong applicants that actually are requiring money for capital expenses. Thanks.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Some interesting observations raised there. Personally, I feel we should consider each application on its own merit and not disadvantage someone because they happen to have applied before. I'm not entirely comfortable with the notion we potentially prioritise someone because it's the first time they've applied. I guess a more general point that maybe we can't resolve tonight, but something to maybe consider for future policies and future years. It seems maybe there's no perfect way because we have more applications than we have funding available. But by having these 2 tranches, and in fact, we've spent the lion's share of the budget in the first tranche, I wonder if actually it would serve the council and indeed the potential applicants better if we only had 1 tranche per year. So we had, I know people might have to wait longer to apply, but then we can consider all applications in the context of the budget rather than spending 3/4 of the budget on the first tranche and not having enough left for some really good causes. So maybe that's a policy matter we could consider, which could be a change for next year.
An observation there, Councillor Knight. We did historically do just the 1 tranche, and we decided, I think, to bring in 2 tranches, partly because on some years we didn't actually get it used up, and B, we then had people applying out of time. But I think that again is something that possibly we should be considering at our next committee meeting before we actually go into the going out to cycle. So if members would be agreeable to that, rather than having a lengthy debate this evening, I'd ask that Mr. Bohr arranges to put a report to council or to this committee at the next committee meeting. If that's is everybody agreeable with that suggestion?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas.
Also, when people are applying, they can apply for a maximum of £2,000 to this committee and £4,000 if in different circumstances. But if they're applying twice, they're effectively applying for £4,000 if they apply twice for £2,000. So there's another little hiccup in the rules there as well.
Mr. Bulb.
I must say the maximum FNGP can approve is 2,000. If it's anything above 2,000 will have to be decided by council.
But just if I may, Mr. Bohr, yes, they can apply in one go. What I think the point being raised is that they can apply technically for 2,000 twice during the year with the trice, rather than I think if I read Councillor Thomas's thoughts correctly, that the total that could be applied for granted in any 1 year to an applicant would be 2,000, rather than having the opportunity to get 2 bites of the cake at 2,000 each, which I think comes back partly to Councillor Agnew's suggestion previously about some of those who have already had grants. So I think under the standing orders and the rules and regulations, we could theoretically grant 4,000 in the year by doing it to 2,000 tranches. So that's the way it reads at the moment. But again, I think this is something why we need to review the policy at the next committee meeting. Councillor Agnew.
I also wanted to add that when consulting with Mr. Bohr about the applications, we still find that some applicants do not give enough detail to actually justify the amount. Some applicants are very thorough, and that's a very good outcome, I think, for us to discuss, where they actually put together the list of what exactly they would like to purchase. And it's very clear as a day. But in some cases, we've noticed there is a random amount, excuse my bluntness about it, but and it's not actually explained. And I know that our officers were chasing the answers. So we are actually left in the dark a little bit about how this amount of money will be spent.
And if there are no further comments at this stage, I'd suggest that we now, if members are all happy, that we actually start looking at the applications one by one, taking into account our policy and matters that I think we will all have slightly different views, but I think this is it's a good healthy debate to be having, that we're actually looking at the views, and we've all considered the applications, so I think we all know what what's there, and we all have different views on it. So if we can start off with the first one, which is the Biggleswade Community Group, which actually provides the newsletter that is produced and you can obtain free of charge from shops in hard copy form and gets delivered by various voluntary organisations. Their application is for £1,200. They've already been awarded £1,000 this year. Members, I await your thought processes, please. Councillor Russell.
We can't give them the full amount they want, but I would like to see them given another £500 because what they produce is for the most vulnerable people in our town, the ones who don't do social media, don't necessarily know what's going on. And I would wish that they could raise money in other ways, but while they're struggling, I think we should still help them a bit. So I would like to see them get 500 from this tranche.
Thank you. Any other comments from members or thoughts from members? Councillor Thomas.
I would second councillors.
Any further thoughts on that? Councillor Foster, I think you wish to speak.
I think I support it, but what I'd like to do is see whether there are other cases later on. So it's not a case of a no, but I just want to reserve the position until we've seen what other thoughts are.
Right. In that case, I think possibly what I will do is I will take the proposal, and if we get an agreement on from a couple, 2 or 3 members of approximate figure, then we'll put it down, note that it'll be reserved till the end when we see what the total figure comes out at. Does that seem a sensible way forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Agnew, did you wish to speak?
Just wanted to say I could park our provisional numbers now and we'll see what it goes down to.
But just on that point, it might be something that we could consider, depending on what the decision is, that we might suggest when awarding the grant that we would welcome it if they could raise a little bit of money their own from advertising or sponsorship, because it's a very worthwhile exercise, but it would be helpful if they could actually do some of that rather than relying us for their operating expenses, which theoretically is against our policy. Item number 2 is Biggles FM, which is the local radio station. They are applying for £1,850 this year. They requested the same amount last year and got awarded the same amount, and indeed the previous year. Councillor Russell.
We've been giving this £1,850 to Biggles FM for a lot of years. They've not increased their ask. It is operating costs. But again, it's serving the whole community in a way that people can listen to Biggles FM if they don't necessarily, they can't read very well, they've got poor eyesight and all the rest of it. It's a bit like the previous one. I see both of those supporting the more vulnerable people in our town. And I don't think we can give them £1,850, but I would hope that we might be able to give them £1,500, which, as I say, is less than we've been giving them for a long while.
Councillor Foster.
I support the fact that we should be supporting this, and I would slightly disagree with Councillor Russell. I think that we could afford to do the £1,850 this time. I do. Given the number of other applicants, I think we need to decide where the priorities are. So for me, that is one that I would support, perhaps over some of the others. But obviously, depending on what other people's thoughts are.
Right, well, we've got one at the moment at the 1850. One at the
Chairman, might I suggest that we go for 1850 as a proposal, given that that's so the 1500 that Councillor Russell proposed, and let's see where we end up.
I'm quite happy with that if other members are, because I'll say these are all indicative, so we'll see where we are at the end, and then we'll have to make decisions. So we'll put in provisionally the 1850 in the full amount.
Well, I think we said 1500.
Sorry, 1500. Right, sorry. Right, the third item is the Biggleswade United Football Club. They are applying for £2,000. This is for the cost of replacing a gas boiler in their clubhouse. Members, and I think should be considering what's in the financial accounts of all these parties, because some have more funds than others. Some are very small, but others do have considerable cash balances. So, members of Councillor Agnew.
So I have two views on this particular one, because I think they actually fit into the category of the typical recipient, for the simple reason that this is capital expenditure. But we also have to remember that we have restricted budget this time around. So if we were to be generous, I'd like to propose 1,000, which is exactly half of the cost, but I don't know how this helps the situation. But I was also going to come back to my point that if we were to leave behind some of the applicants for this tranche, for the simple reason that we do not have money to give away the stuff, then we could probably just give the thought of how to rationalize the numbers by proportion. In other words, whatever was requested versus what we have, and the proportion of it. So if you calculate roughly, that's unfortunately around £400, which I do understand sounds illogical, but given we have a lot of applicants, I'm just wondering what kind of thoughts you have, or we can potentially plug now as interim and see how the mathematics works. For me, 1,000 worked if we were to not to give money to quite few of applicants, just purely because this time we do not have that money and we cannot afford it. But this particular applicant is one of the three that are CAPEX.
Councillor Knight.
I find this really difficult, but the football club do have a reasonable amount of cash in the bank. You know, it's not huge, but they could probably afford a boiler. And I think, unlike some of the other organisations, they probably have more means at their disposal to raise income from other sources. So I'm afraid I'm feeling a bit mean on this one and saying, you know, I'd prefer to pencil in 0 for now and maybe come back to it at the end if we have anything left over. But that's just an opinion.
Chairman, if I'm aligned with Councillor Knight on this one. I think there are other cases that are perhaps not more worthy, but I think if there are more deserving in this particular case.
And I just look at their balance sheet, which our members have seen, and you look at the cash that was in their account at the end of the year, last year, and they are in a position, in my view, that they could afford it, assuming that things are the same this year as they were last year. But that is something that we can be reviewed in due course. But so at the moment, that'll be a 0. Right, the fourth item is the Biggleswade History Society. They are applying for £900, and this is to yes, this is to basically upgrade their computer systems for storage of records, etc. And members, your thoughts, please. Councillor Russell.
I think the History Society is another organisation in the town that does a lot for the town, and it's supported this council in a lot of ways in the past. I would like to see us give them this money if we can possibly afford it, pull it back if we have to, but I would like to see them get the 900. Because I think it's absolutely essential that they have the right computer equipment to keep all the records that they've got.
Councillor Foster.
I agree with Councillor Russell on that one.
Again, I just make the observation, having looked at their balance sheet and the balances in their accounts, they are in a position where, in my view, they could afford it. I fully support the History Society, but looking at overall, they are ones that would appear to have sufficient funds to be able to fund it. But we'll put that. So it's your wish that we go for the 900 at the moment, and then we'll see work out later. Councillor Agnew.
I'd like to actually push it down to half of it, only on the grounds that if the computer is not broken and still works, they could just save up and upgrade a bit later. That's a suggestion.
Councillor Foster.
understand Councillor Agnew's point. I think on that basis, I mean, we've been supporting this organisation for a long time, and for the reasons that Councillor Russell has spoken about, I appreciate that we've got other constraints. So for the moment, I'd like to leave it at the full 900, but I accept the fact that we may have to, when we get towards the end, this is another one that perhaps could be reduced. But whereas we've perhaps left others lower, I would prefer this one to be at the level and then reduce it down rather than the other way around.
I think that we've got that flexibility. So if we leave, I think if we leave it at the top end one, then we can come down. It's a lot harder if we cut back and then we're trying to make money up. Then I think that's a weaker way forward. So if you're happy, we'll put it in at 900 at the moment and see what the overall figure comes out at. Item number 5 is the Biggleswade Scouts. They are asking for £1,500 and they're looking for replacing their tents, which is, I think, certainly a capital expense. Members. And just looking at it, this seems to be their first application for a couple of years. Councillor Foster.
This is a struggle, this one, because nobody wants to say we can't afford to do this, but I think we're all sort of around the table going, really, where does it fit within our budget? So I'm going to make a suggestion that we we propose £1,000 at this stage, but again, perhaps let's leave it at 500 and then give us an option to flex up rather than give them the full amount.
Forgive me, are you suggesting we put
500, please?
500. Right, okay, we'll put this in at 500 at the moment and see how it balances out. And of course, they are part of a national group as well, which one would hope would be able to give some support if appropriate. Item number 6 is the Biggleswade Sea Cadets. They're asking for £2,000 and they have already had one tranche of 1,500 earlier in the year. This is for the maintenance of their building, which is a listed building, and they've obviously got expenses. Councillor Agnew.
I would like to propose £1,000.
Any further thoughts on that, or shall we put in £1,000 with a view to reviewing it at the end, later on?
Chairman, if I may, I was when I reviewed this, I was thinking we've already given this organisation 1,500. Perhaps would be looking more like 500, which would then meet the £2,000 for the year. So my proposal would be 500 rather than.
Yes, I think that was just what was suggested as a suggestion. So we'll put in 500 for that, the Sea Cadets at this stage. Item number 7 is the Biggleswade Swimming Club. This is an application for £1,000. And you've got figures before you. What this is for, to contribute to new gym equipment and training camps. They raise about 5,000 a year from income, and you've got their finances and expenditure with the accounts as well. And they're, again, they've got appear to have monies in the bank. Councillor Agnew.
So I just wanted to ask our officers, given that they have membership fees and fundraising activities, do we know, are we clear actually what kind of equipment they requested? Because it wasn't clear to me, and but equally, because this is new applicant, I know some colleagues disagree with me perhaps, but if we were to encourage them that this is the funds, they're available, we could well offer 500, but I'd like to ensure that we have clarity on what we give money for. Do we have the detail?
Chairman, if I may, we did ask the question, but we did not receive any response yet.
Okay. I don't know what to say that.
Again, they seem to be quite secure financially in many ways. So, Councillor Foster.
My proposal would be, on this occasion, we don't offer a grant.
You said, but if we put that in at the moment, so that's 0. And I think we recognise that all these organisations do a tremendous amount of good, but we have a limited budget in the same way as they do. And we've got to look at overall resources and making sure that we comply with our obligations.
Mine was a slightly briefer version of that, Chairman.
The chairman also wants to add, whenever they apply, we probably need to reinforce the message that the clarity of the application is paramount for us to make the decisions. It clearly isn't there yet.
Right, so that item, the 8th item is for the Biggleswade Town Bowls Club. They are asking for £1,300, and they are looking at replacing rink marks, rink numbers, ditch markers and boundary markers that are compulsory requirements on bowls greens. Councillor Agnew.
Well, I think as it is an equipment, it qualifies as such, but I'd like to say maybe due to the shortage of resource, about roughly half amount, I don't know, 700. Because I would imagine that type of equipment could be bought in batches, but I'm not sure.
Councillor Russell.
I had some doubts about this, but we do an awful lot for the Bowls Club, and I was going to make it a token £500 rather than as generous as Councillor Agnew has gone. Yeah.
So I'll put in 500 then. Right, the 9th applicant is the Chums Charity. Again, you've got the details before you. They're requesting a £2,000 donation to support 5 services, basically £400 for each of the services. Councillor Foster, I think you wish to speak.
I do. This is a difficult one because obviously it's a national charity. It's a national charity, but it is a really valuable charity, and they are so underfunded. As you know, it was one of my mayor's charities for that reason that it does such great work. But I appreciate we're going to struggle this time to decide where the money goes. They're asking for £2,000. I'm conscious that we're probably we're getting close to our budget already. I know Councillor Agnew will have the total, but I would like to support this, but I appreciate we're not going to be able to do £1,000. I perhaps should listen to other members' views on this before I talk any further on it.
Councillor Russell.
It is difficult. I agree with what Councillor Foster's saying. Can we put in 500 for now and see where we go?
Councillor Agnew.
I just want to ask, because they do actually specify that each of the services is 400. We could just as well have 400 and say, please do choose which service. I mean, that's a matter of £100. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just rereading the application. So they're trying to ask for 2,000 to support 5 services, where each one they cost up as 400. But yeah, it's immaterial, of course.
It's just sure we put in 500 for the time being, because yes, it is worthwhile, but it is a part of a bigger organisation. But I think we just see where we come out at the end of the day. But certainly, like most of these organisations, they do a very useful service, which then ironically brings us then to Future Action Biggleswade. Is the 9th. Is the 10th one on this list. They're applying for £250, which is quite a small sum, and they're using the history of organising Think As You Shop events. So members, Councillor Russell.
I think there's a lot of advice around if you want to shop in the right way, if I can put that in quotation marks. I really don't think we can afford to give them a grant, and I think we should say no for this one.
Councillor Foster, I think, is agreeing.
I agree with that.
And I think we're all inclined towards that opinion. So the 11th item is Keach Hospice. Now, I think we all know what Keach Hospice does, and I think it's an incredible organisation. They are asking for £1,000, and we have supported them consistently over the years. Members, your thoughts, please. Councillor Russell.
I wish we could give them the full amount. I did actually visit Keach Hospice at one stage and spoke to some of the parents of the children who were there at the time. I am full of admiration for them, but I mean, all I think we can do at the moment is perhaps say 500 and hope that we can help them a bit more next year.
I think I will put down the 500. I think we would all like to give the full £1,000, but if we haven't got the money, we can't. On a very similar vein, we then get to Sue Ryder St John's Hospice. Which again, they are asking for £1,000, and they did have an earlier request granted for £1,000 this year. So they asked for 1,500 and got 1,000 in the first tranche. We know what they do. Another very good, worthwhile organisation. But Councillor Russell.
Can I suggest 500 as well for them, which makes it up to what they asked for the first time round? Again, it's a shame we can't offer more.
Right, so we'll put in the 500. Then we get to the 12th applicant, which is Tabletop Legends. 13th applicant is Tabletop Legends. They are asking for funding for £2,000 for the purchase of various bits and pieces, some of which are, I believe, capital, and some of which are not, but it's a very new organisation. Members, your thoughts, please. Councillor Russell.
I'll jump in. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it's as worthy of support as some of the other things tonight. So I would suggest that we give them nothing at this point.
Chairman, there's a number of nods around the table. I think we're all thinking, fair play to Councillor Russell for going first, but I think we're all thinking similar. So on this occasion, it would be a no for me as well.
Right, so that's 0 at the moment. And the final one is the Wild Green Blossoms, who are new. They've not completed annual accounts yet from the looks of this, and they're seeking cost of sessions for new students within the Biggleswade area. Councillor Foster.
Chairman, I'm of the same view on this one. I think whilst it's another worthy cause perhaps, but it's something I don't think we can really afford on this occasion. So I would propose no grant.
So members have agreed that we work on that basis. Yep. So we've now, I think, covered all 14 applicants. Mr. Bohr, you will now be able to tell us the figures. I can see Councillor Agnew's waiting to take it.
I think I have 5,900 if I've added them properly. 5,900.
Yes,
perfect, which is perfectly within the budget.
It's all within the budget, but we still have got money if we wish to top things up, which I think so.
About 500.
Chairman, sorry, Chairman, if I may, could we just go back through to make sure we all understand? Yeah. So, Biggleswade Community Group 500.
Yes.
Biggleswade FM, did we say 1850, or did we have what?
We went to 1,500.
Okay. Biggleswade History was 900. Or was it 500?
United was nothing.
Biggleswade was nothing. Biggleswade History was 500. Scout Group 500. Sea Cadets 500. Nothing to the Swimming Club. Bowl Club 500.
Yes.
Chums, we suggested 500.
Yes.
Nothing for Future Action. Yes. 500 for Keach, 500 for Sue Ryder, and then the other two of 0. So that brings us up to 5. Did you say it's 5?
5900.
5900, so that gives us
582 left.
582.
82 left.
So I appreciate you, just for my own peace of mind, so that we obviously did cut a couple back. We cut back the History Society, we cut back Biggles FM against what, but I wonder what other thoughts are where we could effectively spend the budget. I'd like to spend the budget so that we've got nothing left, and
Yes.
we've spent every single penny that we've got in our budget, if that's appropriate.
Councillor Russell, your comment, please.
Could I make the suggestion that if we've got 500 left, we give another 250 to Chums and another 250 to Biggles FM, so that we're nearer what we normally give them.
So that's 250, which would take Biggles FM up to 1750, and Chums with a 250 would it's just
750.
750. So that's 500. That leaves £82.
Can I propose we give the 82 to top up the scout group?
Could we possibly make that is it counted through all the council's budget?
We might have to do a virement for the £18, which I don't have any difficulty with, but if you follow me.
Well, it does seem a bit funny to say 82. I'm agreeing with the proposal for the scouts, but
Right. Is everybody clear on the figures now?
Yep.
In that case, before I move that the figures be as set out, subject to the appropriate environment from reserves of £18 to, so that we've completed that and the process is right, because I think that is perfectly acceptable. That's what reserves are for in the appropriate circumstances. So I'm happy on behalf of the committee to move the figures as discussed and just set out. So that's moved by me, subject to the environment. Is that seconded?
Yep.
Councillor Foster's seconded it. Councillor, right. All those in favour, please signify. That's marvellous. Thank you very much for your attention. That's, I think, been very constructive. It's disappointing, obviously, for a number of people, but unfortunately, that is what happens. We have restricted budget, as do they. So, and thank you for the efforts of you and your staff for actually putting together all the information for us so that we could deliberate fairly. Right. So that's item 9A over. Item 9B is the budget planning cycle. Mr. Ball has presented the report, and you've got the table set out in with the agenda, which you've all had an opportunity. I think we've already. I'll ask Mr. Ball for comments, but if members have got comments, I think if we can have the comments before Mr. Ball comments, or if it's approved, could somebody suggest that we approve it? Well, Mr. Ball, would you like to come in here?
Wanted to just make just one few sentences. I mean, everything is the same as last financial year. The only changes is, I think, members resolve during last year that before we go to open sessions, we should have an informal budget meeting that has to be included. So the draft includes an informal meeting on I think it's on 29th of September. 29th of September, before we start going through the committees. Apart from that, everything is the same as last year.
Councillor Foster.
Yeah, I think the process has worked very well last year. I think the fact that we having an additional one to allow members to input is also helpful, but having the public, if you like, the public meeting, so we can actually scrutinise the budget is also worthwhile. So I've got no other comments other than there's a few minor typos within the document, which I think if we could just tie those up, it just needs to. But the actual content is as I'd like it to be. I think so. I propose that, subject to those minor amendments, that we propose this as laid out.
Is that seconded? Thank you. All those in favour, please signify. Thank you very much. Right, we're now on to Item 10, which is items for information. Item A, bank reconciliation. As you will note, that was presented to the council on the 10th of February. So I think that all we need to do is actually note that unless anybody's got any wishes to go further. So move it noted. Yep. Item 10B is an Orchard Centre update. Mr. Bohr, I think it's probably just as you for you to say a couple of words on this, but it's nice to see that what's been set out here.
Thank you, Chair. But I wanted to mention that the operation model is working, and I remember members gave officers few suggestions. All those suggestions have been operationalized. We've repurposed the Barnet room, and I will say things are going to plan, and likely by the end of this financial year, we will either slightly exceed the budget or meet the budget in terms of income. And also the expenditure has really reduced drastically. So it's all going well regarding the Orchard Centre. Thank you.
Any comments or apart from thanking the officers for having achieved what they have done? Councillor Russ.
Yes, I do thank the officers. I was just smiling because I went to our MP's meeting in Main Hall when he had 4 senior people from Thameslink and National Rail, and there was a guitar group next door. So we had this music in the background while these people were talking, but it was okay.
It sounds as though it had been very calming rather than getting people calm.
I'm not sure about calming what they were playing.
Councillor Foster.
I think officers should be commended. It's been a long time coming, but it's been something that we've needed to do with the Orchard Centre to actually improve the operating model so that we're driving further income into and using both rooms, and actually making the changes that have been made have been very, very positive in both rooms actually. So I think I tend to bang on a little bit about the fees and charges, but I know that the head of finance has got a view on the fees, and I'm happy to go along with those for the moment, especially if we're able to increase the usage of both rooms, which it sounds though it is. So thank you very much.
So is it the wish of the committee that we note with pleasure the improvement and thank officers for the effort they've made, and I hope it will continue to improve?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 11 is the public open session. There are no members of the public physically present. Are there any online who wish to speak? So that's that. Now, I'm not going to read the rigmarole for exempt session due to the fact there's nothing to go on the exempt session. So I'm going to duck out of that for this occasion. And just thank you for your members for the time and effort they've put into going through all the reports that have been produced by officers with regard to the charities and collating it all for us. And thank you for your time in dealing with that. And on that basis, I will close the meeting a bit later than usual for me, but I'll accept the brickbats.